CCPA is an intimate and diverse group of business owners, executives, and managers looking to build relationships and offer each other meaningful resources. We will continue to bring you unparalleled access to speakers, decision makers, and leaders who are shaping Center City. We will also continue to keep our members and guests informed about business challenges and opportunities in Philadelphia and help them become Center City smart. To touch on our future programming, which will all be virtual, on February 18th, Ben and Megan will be hosting a small group discussion, Chat Away with CCPA. And if you'd like to meet virtually for coffee to discuss ways we can support you better or share event ideas, please join us. Our next lunch with city leaders is with Councilmember Alan Dom on February 24th and the Commerce Director Michael Rashid on March 3rd. You can find a full schedule of our events on centercityproprietors.org. I'd like to acknowledge CCPA's sustaining sponsor and our preferred benefits provider, Michael Craig of Penworth Financial Services. Now it is my pleasure to introduce fellow CCPA board member, our treasurer, and the person who came up with this great idea for this event, Suzanne Spinell-Schuster from Friedman LLP. Suzanne?
Suzette, thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. I am Suzanne Spinell-Schuster, Director in charge of Accounting Services at Friedman LLP and a proud board member of CCPA, along with being its treasurer. I am on the sponsorship and program committee, so if you have any ideas for events or speakers, please let me know. I was so glad when Ben agreed to host this event because Matt is such a great guy. You are all in for a treat. Friedman LLP has been serving the accounting, tax, and business consulting needs of public and private companies and individuals for nearly a century. In the wake of the most sweeping changes to the tax code in decades, with the inception of the CARES Act, PPP loan forgiveness, and other business challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, our professionals continue to inform and empower clients to best position themselves and their business for sustainability and success. Ask me for details or visit friedmanllp.com. Now, it is my honor to introduce today's speaker. Matthew Blank, who goes by Matt, is Director of Business Development at Friedman and has almost 20 years of experience helping organizations facilitate growth. He collaborates and strategizes with various offices, practice groups, and partners to achieve their goals. He also runs the firm's internal business development training program here at Friedman called Friedman University, helping train the next generation leaders on how to develop business. Matt is one of the most dynamic and vibrant people I know. His biography is on the screen, and I am delighted for you to meet him and to hear what he has to say. So please join me in waving a warm welcome to Matt Blank.
Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, everyone, for the warm and great introduction today. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak today and to share my stories with all of you. You know, you said yes to this program by saying no to something else. And the time that we're going to spend together in the next hour, I hope, is very impactful to you. I hope that it gives you some ideas, some thoughts, some inspiration to how we can help achieve a better business development strategy for all of us moving forward. No doubt, you know, the last year has been pretty tough for developing new business in terms of creating new relationships. And today, I hope that my program is going to give you some new ideas on how you can go out and attack it. So before we get started, I just want to set some ground rules and some expectations. Everyone knows how difficult it is to pay attention to Zoom for an hour, right? We're all zoomed out. We all have the Zoom fatigue. So one thing I ask of everyone is that I have your attention for that hour. So if you can minimize any distractions with your phone and email, I know that's tough, but I promise you that I'm going to deliver the most engaging program I can for you. So I'd hate for you to miss out on any opportunity to learn some of these key things. So expectations, keep an open mind. And lastly, this is a little bit of interactive, so I'm not going to be speaking the whole time. So I have I can only see 4 people on my side of my screen here. So if you're one of those random 4 people that I see, I may call on you to help me with some of the interaction in the program today. So without further ado, let's get into what we're going to talk about today. Who am I? Give you a little bit more outside of just my role. I'm a father of 3. This is a little bit of an outdated picture. I live in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania with my family. I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia, product of a blue collar family. My dad made furniture. My mom worked at Kohl's. You know, I was taught at a very early age the importance of hard work and outworking someone else. I was taught the importance of being able to be a man of your word and deliver what you say you're going to do. And I apply that kind of blue collar mentality to the white collar world that I work in today. You're all probably going to laugh right now, but this was me back when I was a dancer, how I started my career. I had aspirations to be in a boy band. So when NSYNC came out and Backstreet Boys and I tried out for a group called O-Town, this was my picture that I used to try out for a boy band. I use this picture because, you know, we talk about humble beginnings. This is where it all started for me was the performing bug that I got in getting in front of people. My first engagement, I was a bar and bat mitzvah dancer, getting people excited to dance on the dance floor. From there, I learned how to actually be a DJ. So now I was controlling the event via the music and the organization that I was playing. And one key theme I learned in my hospitality career was how to take care of people. How to take someone's expectations of an event and completely blow them out of the water. So when they leave that event, they say, wow. And I think that's going to be the key theme to this entire program today is how do you take care of people and how do you go the extra mile for them so they say, wow. And when you do those 2 things, you create loyalty among your peers, your referral sources, and your clients. So after being a DJ, I loved the rush that I got from getting on stage and speaking. You know, the performance bug really never left me. And that's something that I do now. And I love doing it. Just before I joined Friedman, I was with an event marketing agency called Event Strategy Group, where I traveled the country going to conferences and targeting companies who had large displays at these big conferences. Remember what conferences were? My job was to go up to, you know, the CMO of the organization and get them to outsource their event management to our agency. Lenovo was our biggest account, and our job was to create these experiences. So when Lenovo would host an event, people would come in and understand, what does Lenovo's products do? What's the service line and why should they work with them? So the big thing for me when I take care of people in terms of creating relationships, it's about creating positive experiences for people so that they remember those experiences and then thus want to work with you more. So let's just set, oh, by the way, so personal side, I have a dog named Ying, a Chinese Crested. This is my wife, Kristen. We're big Eagles fans. And our newest addition to our family is our youngest daughter, Etta Jolene. Three girls, 5, 18 months, and 3 months. It's been a busy household here in the last COVID. So let's talk real quick about my role at Friedman, as Suzanne touched a little bit on. The first role is strategically helping facilitate new work to Friedman. So any client that wants to potentially upgrade their accounting team, I'm the one that helps facilitate that through my network or strategizing with various groups or partnerships. Or demographic regions or industries. I run our internal training program, Friedman University, and most recently launching our business development advisory practice, where companies can hire me and our team to come in and run training programs for their teams and help consult with them on how they can grow their top line. Just real quick to set a baseline of what I defined business development and relationship generation as, just to give you a kind of a baseline definition of what we're going to talk about today. The first thing is reframing the conversation. You know, the title of the program was, you know, how to win in the game of sales when sales is not your game. You know, to me, truly, we're not selling, we're helping people. Every one of you on this call here has a product or service that's helping someone. And when we reframe our mindset to think that we're helping people and we're not selling them, it helps create a more authentic experience for us. So I'm going to speak deeper about how do you create that authentic experience, because when you feel like you're selling, then you feel inauthentic, that you're trying to do something or persuade someone to do something that's maybe not in their best interest. So I want to reframe that conversation from selling to helping. At the end of the day, when we think about relationships, the process is simple. We want to get more people to know who we are. We want to get those people who know us to like us. And then we want to get those people who like us to trust us so that they can eventually hire us to work with us. So how do you look at a stage of a relationship into, do I know enough people? Do I know the right people? Do the people that I know like me? Do I like them? Can I see myself doing business with them? And then finally, do they trust me? And we're going to talk today a little bit about the process in which how to do so. Bottom line, what we want to do is create the loyalty among our clients so that we're the only company or the only provider that they think of. We want to create loyalty among our referral sources. So when an opportunity arises, they always think of us and say our name to everyone. And we want to educate and incentivize them on the right people to refer to us, and incentivize them not so much in rewarding their behavior from a financial perspective. Maybe that's in your model, but rewarding them because they just want to see you be successful. And you want to reward them to make them feel good for the referral that they did for you. There's two styles of business development we'll speak to. Mostly today, we're going to speak to the farming style, which is planting a bunch of seeds with various folks, prospects, and referral sources, watering those seeds and being proactive in making sure that those relationships grow into a fruit-bearing fruit, so that eventually that turns into work for you. So we're going to focus most on the farming, because that's a more foundationally strong than the hunting, where hunting is more, I want to work with this company. I know that they operate out of this state, and these are the shareholders, and these are the people I want to get in front of. I'm going to position myself in front of everyone around them, between their not-for-profits they support, between their golf clubs they belong to, the peers that they know, so that when there's a need arises, that they call me. Back when I was building the DJ company, one of my main focuses was to target the right bride. We did a lot of weddings, and we charged a little bit more than most of the DJs in the area. And I knew part of the model was to get the catering directors of the various high-end hotels in Philadelphia to know who we are, but also to like us. So that when a bride would go to their facility, they'd say, "What DJs do you recommend?" And they would say, "Well, here's our list of recommended DJs." That was my goal number one, was to get on that list. And then the goal number two was to get them to circle my name. Here's all our DJs, but you really got to call Matt. That's the same thing when it comes to the referral sources now, is that if you water enough seeds and you pay attention to those seeds, and you plant strong foundations, and you truly care about helping those people, that will turn into them putting you on their list and circling your name. And then finally, when I think about business development overall, these 4 steps here are pretty important. Building relational capital, which we'll speak to today on how you can do so, helping people, and then always having that presence of mind to inquire, to be curious about how this can turn into an opportunity. So every email that you write, every conversation that you have, whether internally or externally, can be an opportunity for someone. Do you have the right radar up to think, how can I turn this into an opportunity? And then finally, one of my former bosses told me a great line that always stuck with me was, "Matt, there's no traffic in the extra mile. Everyone will remember you for taking that extra mile, and no one will expect you to do so. So there's no traffic in the extra mile." So we're going to speak today about some different things that you can do to go the extra mile. Let me just real quick in my share here. I want to make sure I'm sharing my sound. There we go, because we got some videos that I want to show today. Okay, cool. So let's just real quick get into a little bit of the top end stuff of business development when I talked about helping and selling. This is what a typical person thinks about when they think about a salesperson, a car salesman, right? And a car salesman has a negative connotation to it, because everyone here that's probably gone to a car dealership may or may not have had a good or a bad experience. But the one common theme that I've heard with car salesmen is that they're gonna get one over on you. You're gonna pay more than you really want to or should. So when we walk into a car dealership, our guard is always up, because we don't want to reveal what our true number is in our head. Or do we really want the leather package, or the DVD package back when the DVDs were big in the cars, right? So for us, we keep our guard up and then let the car salesman dictate the question, so that we slowly either get our guard down or reveal what's important to us. So when we walk in, we have that guard up. The goal in meeting new people, it's not just because of a car salesman has a negative stigma. It's that we were taught at a very early age in life, and I'm teaching my daughters this now: stranger danger. Stay away from the strangers, because danger is associated with that. So though as adults, we don't look at meeting a stranger, particularly in a dangerous environment, but we still have that guard up as, is this person going to try to get one over on me? What is this person's intentions? And if we feel like we're selling someone, then automatically, if they feel like they're being sold to, their guard goes up even higher. So I look at a new relationship is, the first thing I need to do is try to get that person to lower their guard to me in an authentic way, so that when I can ask them the right questions to get to know what's going on in their business, they're giving me the true and right information about that. They're not giving me filtered responses based on their guard being up. So tip number 1 in terms of growing your business development strategies is looking at the people that you know, or maybe have some relationship with them, and really focusing your efforts on trying to get their guard to be down, to be more personal with them, to be more open with them, and be more vulnerable with them. When we think about, developing business in terms of a service or helping people, I look at this image as a pretty powerful image because, we want to be the folks that are on the right here of solving the problems. Every one of us here on this Zoom has a bubble above our head right now of the issues that are going on in our lives, whether it be personally and professionally, the things that are, quote unquote, keeping us up at night. Right. And those things aren't just labeled. How easy would sales and business development be if you could just walk around and see everyone's major troubles and say, I can fix, A for you, I can fix B, but we can't. So how do we get that person to reveal what's in the bubble above their head? And that comes with earning their like and their trust so that they are able to reveal those problems in their head. And the second part is being, as I said earlier, being more curious. The more questions you ask, the more genuine you are in those questions about helping someone, the more they're going to reveal what's in their head to help them. So for me, the most important thing when I think about a new relationship is what is in that person's bubble. And I can't say, hi, I'm Matt. Nice to meet you. What's going on in that little dome upstairs? Right? I can't do that right away. I have to say, tell me more about yourself, your family, your friends, what do you like to do? And over the course of time, if I'm in front of that person, if I'm watering that seed enough, slowly that person's guard is going to be down, right? And I'm going to become that person's friend. I mean, people say they buy from who they like, and that's the truth, right? So when I can become someone's friend and genuinely know who they are and be invited to their kids' birthday parties, or their anniversary events, or their not-for-profit galas, that's now when I'm a supporter to them, that I'm not just a salesperson. I'm not just looking for a transaction. I'm looking for a long-standing relationship. I look also as a relationship as a series of doors. So if you were to envision yourself, you're being that person looking at these series of doors here. Envision that last door at the very end. That last door is that person signing your engagement letter, your contract, placing an order with your organization. Whatever that last door is, that means them officially doing business with you. And if you were to back out the doors, the door right before that is potentially you being invited to participate in a proposal or in an interview to meet other shareholders to potentially do work. And then maybe the door before that is talking about a scope of work that might be able to be done between you and the organization. But if you back all those doors up to the very, very beginning, that first door is that person's a stranger for you. So when you meet a new stranger, your job isn't to sell your entire company and everything that you can do for that person in the first door, because everyone's been there. Everyone's gotten that email. And I know for a fact, if I were to ask everyone to raise their hand, you've gotten this email on LinkedIn. The stranger that emails you on LinkedIn with a 10-paragraph why their company is the best company in the world and why you should work with them, right? No one reads those emails because they're too long and we feel like we're being sold to. If you're thinking about developing a new relationship with a person, just think about, what does that next door look like? How can I get that person to open that door for me? And then the following door, and then the following door. Think about the stage of the relationship in slower, smaller wins, as opposed to meet this person, let's do business tomorrow. Now, everybody has a different business model. And I'm not saying my model here is the right one for everybody. But in terms of what's worked for me in creating authentic relationships is always focusing on that next step in the relationship. And how can I get that person to open the next door for me? When I talk about referral sources, when I think about how can I develop my business and scale it, it can't be me always picking the phone up and calling people and going to events all the time. I have to be able to create others to do this for me. So envision this as you here telling the world about how great you are of an employee or a business owner or a company. If you can get 2 people to say that same story for you, and then you also can get 6 people and 12 people and 24 people, the more people who can authentically tell your story and listen for the right cues, the more you're going to have opportunities to be successful. As I'm sitting right here having this conversation with you, there could be an attorney friend of mine that's on the phone with his or her client. And that client is saying, I'm just really not happy with what my accounting firm did for me in 2020. They didn't call me back in time. I just felt like I was always trying to hunt them down to get answers. And I want that attorney to say, you have to call my friend Matt at Friedman. He's a great person and they will absolutely take care of you. So when that attorney makes that recommendation, that person who introduces to me, that potential client, the first couple doors are already open at this point. They don't come with their guard up completely because their trusted advisor has referred me as a trusted advisor. And I'm not even an accountant. So my job is to get them to trust me that I'm going to take care of them with placing them with the right accounting team. So part of my model in growing my business is to look at all my referral sources and always be on top of that list. Have I talked to that person in a month or so? Have I helped that person in the last month or two? right? Prioritizing all these people because we only have so much time in the day. So being very strategic in who do I spend my time with and how do I spend that time with them to be able to intentionally get the results that I'm looking for. I talked about relational capital earlier. I look at each of my people in my network. Some of you are on this call today, and I really appreciate some of you that joined. And I'm going to go through and maybe call on some of you here in our next exercise. But I look at each person in my network in terms of business as a little mini piggy bank. And I can't withdraw from that piggy bank until I deposit enough in that piggy bank. So when I look at a referral source, let's just go back to that attorney reference. Every time I introduce that attorney to a potential client for him or her, that's me putting, 50 cents into the bank. Every time I introduce that attorney to a new client who ends up engaging them, that's $1 in the bank. Or if I invite them to an event or introduce them to another person or send them an article or send them a happy birthday card, anything that I do to help them and show them that I care, that's me depositing in that bank. And I'm not keeping score in my head that I have $1 in this bank account and $2 in that bank account. Right? But I know that the more I'm going to deposit in this bank account, the more I'm going to be able to withdraw. So when you think about each of your referral sources and your prospects and people in your network, think about how much relational capital have you built with them over the years? And if it's not enough yet to make a withdrawal, how can you make more deposits to be able to organically make the withdrawal? And I talk so much about being authentic. People buy from who they like. When you feel fake selling, you come off fake. And when you come off fake, people do not want to buy from you because their guard is up. So how do you understand what is your authentic self? How do you tell the story about who you are so that when people see you, they know this is the real you. This is the ABCs of you. People know when they meet me and they interact with me that I'm going to follow through what I do. I'm always going to have the energy to make them happier, and I'm always going to try my best to make people have a better life. Right. And I had a coach that helped me. This isn't something that's been my entire life. I had a coach who really helped me understand who I am and write my why statement. I'm sure you've all heard the, develop your own why statement before. I'm going to play a quick video that's very impactful for me to help me understand how important is it to understand your why? Because I can ask any of you right now, what do you do? And if you were to think to yourself, okay, what do I do? You can probably answer that question in a sentence or two. If I were to ask you a further sentence, how do you do it? You probably can think to yourself of 2 or 3 sentences of how you do what you do. But if I were to ask you, why do you do what you do? That might be a little bit more tricky for you to think about. And it's not just because it earns a paycheck, or it provides for my family, or I get to go to cool events, whatever the case may be. Think about why you want to do what you do and watch this video.
Series is called How Do I Know? And a lot of times when people hear the
Pause real quick. Can you hear that? Yes? Cool. Just making sure.
series is called How Do I Know? And a lot of times when people hear the phrase, how do I know? The next thing they say is what? How do I know what? But the key really isn't to know what. The key is to know why. Because when you know your why, you have options on what your what can be. For instance, my why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. My what is stand-up comedy. My what is writing books. My what can be going out with some friends to eat. In fact, another what that has moved me towards my why is a web series that we have out now called Break Time. So every Wednesday at 3 o'clock, you should subscribe to the channel. We do a series called Break Time on YouTube. So 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode. One episode in particular, I'm about to show you a clip to. We were in Winston-Salem. So Break Time, this is how it works. I travel the country, I do stand-up comedy, probably an hour and a half at an event. And in the middle of my show, I'll just sit down and start talking to the audience. And funny just happens. Or I'll meet somebody who's really interesting. So I met this one guy, and he said that he teaches music at a school. I was like, all right, you teach music, can you sing? And then I'm just gonna show you the clip. Check it. So you're a musical director. Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing, you know what I'm saying? All right. Now, once you give me the version, is if Your uncle just got out of jail. You got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Right now I'm found, was blind, but now I see.
So here's the thing. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time I asked him to sing, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what has more impact because you're walking in or towards your purpose.
I love that video so much because when you watch it, you know, the first time he sang, he knew what to do. And if you looked everyone else around, they looked and said, oh, he's a pretty good singer. But the second time he sang it, if you notice the reactions of everyone else, he's an amazing singer, don't get me wrong. So when he sang it the second time, the purpose behind it, just I get goosebumps every time I've watched it. And I've seen this video hundreds of times. But the people around him, the reaction they got when they saw how inspired he was to sing that song the second time and how much people got behind that, that is why I think it's so important to know your why when you're out developing new business, because when you're authentic about it and you know your why, that story is much more impactful for those people. They're going to want to buy into you much quicker and much more because they believe in you. So if I were to think about what's my biography, right? What is that? What are the words of my biography? Why would someone want to read my biography? Everyone's had that, there we go. Everyone's had that book that they couldn't put down, or the show that they keep binging. You know the show that you binge, you know, let's do one more. It's 3 a.m. Let's do one more. Why do you binge that show? Or why can't you put that book down? It's because you're so entrenched in the characters in that book. You feel so connected to that book or that show that you have to see how it turns out. So when I think about being my authentic self and creating connection with folks, I want them to be so connected to me that they want to see me be so successful that they'll support me any way they can. And the more that they can do that, the more I will be successful. So when I think about writing my own biography, what would the words be in it? And how could I get that person to want to continue to read the book? When we think about our brand itself, personal brand is why people want to work with who we are, and our company, we want to create that loyalty. And one of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou is, people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So we're in the feeling business. No matter what you do, if you're a product or service person here, you are in the feeling business. If you can get someone to feel good working with you and feel like you're helping them look better to their bosses or to their shareholders, or make their lives easier, or make their lives more fulfilled, if you can make them feel any of those things, you're going to be more successful in business development. So let's do a quick exercise here. I'm going to randomly look at my names here on the floor here and pick out some 4 names. Let's go. And there are people are like, no, please don't pick me. Don't pick me. Okay. I see my one friend who he's smiling. I know he knows I'm going to pick him. Mr. Rob Saxon from Mana. How are you, Rob? Rob, can you unmute yourself for a second? Putting Rob on the spot to unmute himself. There we go. Rob, how are you?
Sorry about that.
You look great, man. How are you? Good?
I'm doing good. Thanks.
All right, everybody give a big round of applause for our volunteer, Rob Saxon from Mana. Good job, Rob. Thanks for volunteering for today. He didn't know he was volunteering, but he is now.
You're not gonna make me sing, are you?
No, I'm not going to make you sing. No, not today. I'm going to show you a series of logos from different companies. I just want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your head when you see the logo, okay? All right, here we go.
Apple.
Okay, what do you think about when you think of Apple?
iPhone.
iPhone, okay. Next one.
Coffee.
Coffee.
My favorite sneaker.
Perfect.
A nice car. Amazing. I can get whatever I want.
From A to Z. I just learned that, by the way, the old little logo trick they did. Everything from A to Z with a smile. Okay, next one, Rob.
I can't really see it, Matt. Is that, I don't know what that is. Is that Ferrari?
That's the Ritz-Carlton.
Oh, the Ritz.
The Ritz-Carlton. What do you think of it when you hear the Ritz-Carlton?
A nice place to stay.
Nice place to stay. Thank you, Rob. Again, big round of applause for Rob Saxon helping us out here today. Thank you, Rob. Okay, so if you noticed, every logo had a different feeling, had a different thought that came in Rob's head. And you probably saw those logos and thought something different to yourself. So I want to tell you a great story about the Ritz-Carlton that I learned back in my hospitality days that just really stuck with me about going the extra mile for folks. So there's the Ritz-Carlton Orlando. There's the Hearns family who flew down. It was a mother, father, and two kids, a boy who was, I believe, 8, and then another boy, Timmy, who was 5. And for those of you who are parents of young kids, understand how important our young kids have their security blankets or their boppies or their bippies. My daughter's is her blue. You know, it's a little blanket. That's her security blanket. She takes it everywhere she goes, and she loves that blanket. So Timmy had his security blanket, Joshy. And Joshy went down to Orlando with the family. Had a great trip down there. And when they were leaving, they were going to pack up their bags. And Timmy says, "Where's Joshy?" So the mom and dad are looking all around the hotel and the bag. They can't find Joshy. So after hours of searching, they can't find it. They have to go to their flight. They go to their flight. And obviously that was probably a really troubling flight home for the folks that were sitting, you know, right around those people on the plane. But they couldn't find Joshy. So weeks go by. Finally, the Ritz I guess they found Joshy in one of the sheets that were rolled up in the laundry. So the Ritz remembered that the Hearns family was looking for that, and they sent Joshy back to the family. So imagine the family when they get the door, you know, knock at the door, and here's a package of Joshy being sent back. Wow, what a great story, right? That the Ritz did that. But this isn't the end of the story. Where the Ritz went the extra mile in creating a loyal fan for the rest of their lives is they had a scrapbook under Joshy. And the scrapbook were pictures of Joshy on his extended vacation. So here's Joshy, you know, chilling at the pool. There's Joshy getting a massage, hanging out with his buds. They even let Joshy ride in the go-kart on the beach. They let him come to the back of the house and be in security guard. And he was so good at his job that actually gave him a job, a real job as Joshy from the Ritz-Carlton. Can you imagine little Timmy's face to know that his best friend was not in trouble those last 2 weeks, that he was having the time of his life? How the feeling, and I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it, the kid, how he felt, but the parents knowing that that organization, who is a $1 billion organization, who thought of doing that little thing for that kid. So I ask all of you, when you think about those people that I said earlier in your network, when was the last time you've gone the extra mile for them to make them have that loyalty smile on their face, to them to know that you did something extra that you weren't supposed to do? Back to that line, there's no traffic in the extra mile. If you could drive this road every day, would you? And the answer is obviously yes. And that's not the reality, right? There's traffic jams. There's a million things going on. We have a million emails coming in a day. We have all of our extracurricular boards that we're on. And we have our family. We have our own personal. All these things happen at the same time. But if we can always have our radar up, is how can I go extra mile for that person? We'll actually get more work for them. So I want to share some stories about how I've done that in the past. This is a gentleman that I wanted to do business with 2 years ago. He owned at the time an outsourced CFO company. Met him through a friend of mine, and we had coffee. So in this coffee meeting, he had no idea who I was, and he hadn't done any work with our firm yet. And my job was to get him to know me and like me so that eventually we could have a referral relationship. In that conversation, he told me he was the chair of an organization, Channel W35 for everyone here remembers Channel 35 in Philadelphia. And he was, on the board of what is now Independence Media. And I thought, okay, well, it's a great not-for-profit. We have a not-for-profit practice. Maybe we can help him out. But my goal was the first to get him to like me. In this conversation, we're talking about things he likes to do. And his favorite thing to do on Saturday mornings was to watch Newcastle United, English Premier League soccer, with his 2 daughters. He said, there's nothing better than waking up on Saturday mornings and watching those games with my daughters. They love it. I love it. So at home, I thought to myself, okay, Newcastle United, that's something that's really important to him. I went on Amazon, and for $15, I bought a mug that had his name on the top, had number 35, and it was the Newcastle mug, and had it sent to his house. And he wrote me back about a week later, Matt, that's one of the most thoughtful gifts I've ever gotten from a person that I just met. Really appreciate you taking the time to send that to me. I can't wait to use it with my girls. Well, about a year and a half goes by. And when I keep in contact with him, when the opportunity came out for the RFP for us to potentially bid on getting the work, he invited us to do that, to be a part of that. And it turned out that we were the best firm based on our experience to end up earning that work. And I would have never had that opportunity if I would not have went to that networking event, who got me to introduce to this person, had the coffee, and then went that extra mile for him to continue to think about us. So the extra mile is really important when you think about each person and what it personally means to them in terms of what are they into outside of work. Everyone, people think about, when I think about sports, people think of the importance of the name on the front of the jersey as opposed to the name on the back of the jersey. And the more you can find out about someone, about what they're personally into and tie into that, that's when you can get more business from them. Here's another example. When we had our third daughter, we came home and there was a knock at the door and there was a package that was arrived from an organization called Spoonful of Comfort. One of my friends sent me this really cool soup that was in this nice mason jar with these rolls and cookies. It was such an awesome gesture. And they said, Matt, it's probably going to be hard to cook with a newborn. Hope you enjoy the soup. It took them no more than probably 10 minutes. And I think it's $60 or $70 to send over the soup to me. But it meant so much to me that they did that. So Spoonful of Comfort's an awesome site if you know of people that are maybe going through some troubling times or maybe have COVID or would like some comfort. Spoonful of Comfort's a great site. I have another friend who some of you may know. Him and his wife just moved out to Malvern, and they bought a big farmhouse out in Malvern. And he was telling me that he used to live in Society Hill, so he's always a big city guy. And he says, Matt, I'm moving out to the farms now. I got to get myself some goats and some horses. I said, that's great, man. I'm looking forward to seeing the house. So I went on a website called Draw Me Up. You want to look at that? It's called Draw Me Up. And you could take people's headshots or pictures and they impose them onto paintings. So I had this painting sent to him in his house for his new farmhouse of him and his wife. And he wrote me back, Matt, that's one of the most thoughtful gifts I've ever gotten in my life. And I think it was like $50 or $60. Draw Me Up. It's a great website to send gifts to people, to put their faces. And again, he's not going to hang this on his foyer when people walk in his house. But again, thinking outside the box of how can you matter to people by doing something extra mile. I want to talk real quick in the second third of our program here on mindset and how important your mindset is about developing business. COVID's been really challenging to us on how do we develop business from our remote world. If we're so used to going to lunches and dinners and events, how do we actually do the same thing from our home? And it starts with our mindset. So when I think about our mindset, I think every time I have an opportunity to write an email to someone, I ask myself that question, is this an opportunity I can help that person? Is this an opportunity that this can help someone else that I know? And is there a chance for me to go the extra mile for someone? And it could be something as simple as an introduction. We have the ability to create introductions for folks. And instead of saying, Jane meet Matt, Matt meet Jane, you're now virtually connected. Hope you both can connect. But taking the time to call Jane to make sure she understands why I'm making the introduction and getting her permission. Or in the introduction, writing a little bit about why I think Jane is so important for this person to meet. Connecting her LinkedIn or her company profile in a hyperlink to that email. Making the introduction so professional that when they get that introduction, it means much more than a couple words on a piece of paper. And that starts with my mindset. And I look at that as because I think about my success all the time. I think about, climbing a mountain in business development. One of my coaches told me early, he said, Matt, why are you going to try to, outwork everyone and try to be as successful as possible? What does it mean when you actually get there? What does the top of the mountain look like for you? And he helped train myself to be more present in the moment of focusing on each individual step. If you look at these rock climbers here, I'm assuming this is Mount Everest because that's what I Googled and that's what came up. So hopefully you rock climbers out there aren't going to call me out. This is a different mountain, but Mount Everest, let's just call it that. These folks did not decide they were going to climb Mount Everest that morning. They thought about that for months, potentially years, and prepared for that both mentally and physically to be able to put themselves through this grueling journey to get to the top of the mountain because they knew when they got to the top, that sense of achievement, that sense of fulfillment was going to be so powerful to them. And they didn't guess as they're going up, let me make it, this snow looks firm. Let me step here. No, they planned each individual step. So when I think about climbing a mountain in terms of business development, I'm very strategic in each individual step that I climb because I know that I'm doing it for a larger journey than just creating a new sales relationship or getting more money into the pipeline. It's about helping and impacting more people because I feel genuinely better when I can help more people. Here's a story about how I did not know what success looked like for me. In 2013, MasterChef came to Philadelphia for open auditions. Being in the hospitality industry, I was around so many great chefs and some of my event folks here I can see on here. I'm sure you've had the same experiences. I love to cook. It's one of my favorite things to do. And my mom called me and she said, Matt, I just saw an article, MasterChef is coming to Philly. You should go down and try out. I said, Mom, that's a good idea. Let me go do it. So I threw on my suit and I made my, me on a platter. And I went into the DoubleTree on Broad Street there and waited in line for hours. Interview with the producers, got past round 1. They said, can you hang this afternoon? We're going to come back and interview for round 2. Got past round 2. Can you come back tomorrow? We have a couple more interviews we'd like to do. Got past round 3. Can you go home and film yourself cooking, and put together the story of who you are, just using your phone. We'll give you some questions to answer. Got past round 4. Was then flown out to California to become potentially on the show. Me and 99 other people were interviewing in the studios in California to become on this show. And when I was sitting in front of the lights, in front of the director, the producer, and all the lights were on me and the camera was on me, and they're filming those backstories that you see in a lot of reality TV shows. They asked the question, they say, what would you do if you win the title of Master Chef? I thought for a second. I said, it'd be really cool to be on TV. I never thought about winning. And I thought that was like a tongue-in-cheek joke that they were like, haha, that's cool. They were like, cut. Excuse me, Matt. Say anything else. Just say something that's a little bit more about winning the competition. Okay, back on. And now my mind is so, everyone else that was competing to be on that show that day, everyone else was saying, if I win MasterChef, I'm going to open up my own restaurant in New York City, or I'm going to, my grandmom owned a pub in Ireland and I want to recreate that. Everyone had the most authentic and genuine stories of what success looked like for them. My success was getting on TV, which was not the right success. And had I would have thought that out, I likely would have got on the show. Now, I probably would have been eliminated week 2 when they have the baking competition because I can't bake. So I would have been out anyway. But the key to this point is what does success look like for you? Before I engage anyone into a new conversation, a meeting, an email, I think, what does success look like for this other person? The first sales coach I ever had in my life taught me, said, Matt, everyone's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me radio? And if I can understand what does success look like for that person, ask them that question, what does success look like for you? That helps me dictate how I can drive the conversation to get the success that I want, which is them to do the behavior that I want them to do, whether to refer me or hire me. So ask yourself, what does success look like for me personally in my business development efforts this year and beyond? And then what does success look like for each individual person when I'm speaking with them? I look at business development is a simple thing. We started at one point in our careers at one side of this river. There's no way for us to get to the other side of this river, and the other side defining as successful in business development, without having some stepping stones. And if you look at, like, say, Joe Rogan, when he started his podcast, I bet you if you were to ask Joe Rogan, Joe, the first 20 episodes that you did, do you like those shows? You think you did good? He'd probably say every single one of them stunk. But as he got better at it, as he practiced, he got better, and each stepping stone got easier for him. And now he has one of, if not the most successful podcast in the country. Now let's get to the last part, which is the hardest part, is as far as what has COVID done to business development? Being able to remove any personal experiences we used to have. Hey, let's meet at this event. Let's go grab a drink afterwards. Can I take you to dinner? Let's go golfing. Golfing you still could do, but the in-person events were removed. So how do we develop business remotely? And how do we get people to engage and connect with us remotely? It's the biggest challenge that people have. And the 2 words I would say to think about is your intentionality, okay? Understanding that each relationship that you have to be intentional about growing that relationship to get to a specific thing. And I'll give you some examples in a second here. The second is clarity, is understanding, why am I developing this relationship? What is the end goal going to look like for both this other person, this group of people, and me? So being intentional with every single effort, knowing that I'm pushing through each individual door, as we said earlier, and that I'm clear about when that final door opens, it's going to be the door that I want to open, and it's going to look like what I want it to look like. Wasted time. That's the biggest thing that I've learned from this pandemic is I would have so many events and meetings that I would go to that if I were to look back on that, I wonder how much wasted time that I went to those events because I felt like I was developing business, because I was out. I had the nice name tag on my chest, and I'd walk home with 6 or 10 business cards, and I would feel like I did something. But were those relationships meaningful, and did they get me anywhere? Intentionality is the number one lesson that I learned through COVID about being intentional with each person's time. We can always make more money, but we can never make back time. The most important asset we have is time. So how do we spend that time as efficiently as possible to get the actual results that we want? And here are my top 5 things that you can do to develop business from remotely before we get into our last video and open up for questions. So number 1, intentionality. It's so easy for us to get bogged down with the operation side of our business that we forget that we actually have to take time to water those seeds. The farmer doesn't go out and say, oh, I have nothing else going on, let me go water those seeds now. The farmer says, no, I have to water those seeds first thing in the morning before the sun comes up, or right before the sun goes down, or however often the seeds need to be watered. So schedule time into your calendar and block out undivided time to just develop business. And when you're in that hour or 2 hours of developing business, you're going to wear a bunch of hats. Excuse me. You're going to wear a bunch of hats. You're going to wear your research hat. You're going to wear your connecting hat. You're going to wear your, following up hat. But schedule the time and have a plan, because when you have a plan, you can understand what the benchmarks look like. Don't just have it to do it when you have free time. Defense is offense. How hard has it been for you to earn the business of the clients that you already have? How easy would it be for you to lose those clients if you take your eye off the ball? So to me, business development is not just finding new work, it's protecting the work that you have and getting more from it. When I talked earlier about being on the hotel's list, I wanted to be number one on their list, but that didn't start right away. I was probably number 2 or number 3. So think about your clients. Is there a number 1 or number 2 person on their list right now? So that if you weren't to deliver what you say you're going to deliver, or you were able to drop the ball at some point, that they would call those people. So in order to box out your competition, to make sure that you're on top of your clients, not only from a service perspective, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, that just goes without saying, but on a personal perspective, that you're connecting with them. One thing that I do in a defensive offense thing is we call all of our clients at the end of the year to ask them, how do we do for you last year? Were you completely happy with everything that we did? And if they are completely happy, then they're going to tell us. If they're not, they're going to tell us too, hopefully. And the goal of that is to minimize any potential issues that might arise, so that if the issue repeats itself the next year, now there's a pattern and now they might have a reason to go outside and look for someone else. So we nip that in the bud. The second is, if they say, yes, we're really happy with you, I can then ask, is there anyone else like you that that might have an accounting need? Part of my goals this year are really to try to grow my practice. So if there's anybody else that I'd love if you can, keep my name in your head to say that. And that's a great way to ask them to refer to other business. And the other way, defensive offense, is to ask that person, that client, what are their goals for the year? What are the things that they want to achieve? And how can you help them achieve them? And that could present maybe cross-selling opportunities for you to get more from that potential client in your own service buckets that you have. Or you might know someone who can help them facilitate that growth. Hey, I know an insurance person that can help you get there. Or I know a banker that might be able to help you. The more you ask the questions of what are in their head, the more they're going to reveal, so that you can have the ability to give outbound referrals and create more for yourself. Defensive offense. Leverage and build your relational capital with people that matter. Who are the people that matter? Literally write them out on a piece of paper. If there were a parking lot, if you were to look at a high-end view of a Target parking lot, right? Just like from a drone looking down, the best spots at that Target on a busy Saturday are the first spots right by the door. The ones that are typically reserved for handicapped folks or expecting mothers or families. Imagine if Target could reserve those spots for their most important clients, right? The people that are going to buy the TVs and the biggest bills that day. Obviously, they can't do that, but you can in terms of your time. You can reserve your most important time for the people that matter. And it's important for you to list those people out so that you can understand this person matters. And remember, a parking spot is temporary. So why someone might have referred you in 2019, they haven't referred you in 2 years. Why is that? Have you developed enough with them to continue that relationship? Maybe you move them down to a lower tier. The top tier you're hitting once a month, and the bottom tiers you're hitting once every other month or once a quarter. So think about your time and the people that matter to you and building that relational capital. Paying attention to other social media. We could talk all day about what can you post and what's your voice. But for me, the biggest thing that I try to do with social media is pay attention to people that matter to me and what they're posting. If someone celebrates, a kid got straight A's on their report card, dropping them a comment, way to go, or engaging with them in their content and keeping that in my mind. So when I have a conversation with them, I'm prepared for things that I want to bring up that are important to them. And finally, going back in years past of companies that maybe you wanted to do business with that you didn't win their engagement, go back to them and see how their current vendor is doing or how their current partner is doing. Just because they said no to you in 2018 doesn't mean it's no forever. So go back through all those last losses and recontact them and consider potentially growing that relationship. Meeting strangers is so difficult remotely. So leveraging the people that you already know, the people that like you and already trust you, are the most important to developing business while we're remote here, and leveraging them to meet the new strangers for them. And I want to end here with a great video that kind of sums this all up. When I think about developing relationships, I think about how hard it is sometimes and how sometimes I get distracted with other things I have to do. But I always think about what is the feeling going to be when I achieve that goal, and why is it going to matter? So I want to show this quick video before we wrap up the questions here. Just give me 1 second because I have to switch to YouTube. Hi, everybody. Sorry. Okay, 1 second. Share sound. We're good. Okay. Can everybody hear that? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear that. Yes, thank you. And I'm not crying, you're crying. I love that video. Hold on, it's still playing it. I love that video so much because it means so much to me of business development is not everything, right? There's so much more that matters. And when I look at that video specifically, about him placing his granddaughter's picture in front of him and understanding that's why he's putting himself through this grueling training program, to be able to lift her up, and the neighbor always giving him dirty looks as he walked by because she doesn't understand what he's doing. All that matters into this now. And for me, you can't develop business and you can't be a good business developer if you haven't developed yourself and if you haven't gone through a personal development. And when I think about connecting with people, it starts here and it starts in here. And the more we can be in touch with these two things, the more people are going to want to connect with us, the more we'll be successful in business development. I thank all of you for your time this morning. I welcome any questions, and I'm very grateful for this. So thank you very much, everyone.